welcome to the Knowing Show. I am your host, Christene Marie. I am so grateful you would join me here tonight. We are going live later than normal. Typically, we go live every morning. And today I decided to change things up a little bit. It is Sunday. What is the day? What's my alarm going off for today? What's today? It is June 14th. And y'all, we are reading lesson 165 of A Course in Miracles. And the reason why we do this every single day is to reorient and refocus our ears, our mind, our attention, every part of us on the truth and toward the truth, because there is so much vying for our attention, so much vying for distraction and focus away from that which we are pursuing. And it's not even just maintaining focus, but also reinstilling and reaffirming the truth that is inside of us. You know, there's not only so much distraction that can pull our eyes off of our target, but there's also a lot of distraction that could fill our mind with something that is not true. And so much of what we kind of contend with in a normal day-to-day is actually battling our mind and going toe-to-toe with that which is not true, that which is actually from the past that we're carrying on into the present moment. And so much of what we get upset about here and now in relationships, even in business, really actually doesn't have so much to do with this time and present moment. It's actually so much more to do with the past. And I've been talking to a friend about why we do the work, and why we do the work is for the moments when all of a sudden we are unintentionally thrown into the arena. We're kind of like in the ring with somebody else, or maybe we're contending something devastating. And the amount of work we have done beforehand allows for us to be able to protect ourselves against the lies, protect ourselves against the distractions and everything that's threatening us from the front, from the side, that could really be deviating us from not only our focused pursuit that will get us to where we want to go in the future, but also protect us in the present moment to see clearly, to know clearly what's true. There's so much threatening our mind, our body, our soul, and our spirit. And so the work that we do here on the show is to remind us of what's true. It's to reinstill and like strengthen that inner knowing. But it's also to continue to hone us and point us forward. So maybe we actually learn something new in order to get us further on the right direction. And we need each one of these aspects. And this is what friendship is for. This is what shows like this are for, so that we come alongside each other in the pursuit of, this is where I'm going. This is what I'm called to do. This is why I'm here. This is why I'm created. And in my pursuit of becoming the fullness of who I was created to be in the first place, we need each other. We need community, and we need the truth, most importantly. And y'all, the truth is something that only in the past couple of years I've had a growing appreciation for. For so many years, I wanted something other than the truth to be real, and I actually placed a greater belief in that kind of hope and wish and dream. It was a very childlike type of approach to life, rather than squaring off with the reality of what is. And there's this it's the same coin, but there's two different sides. One side is that we actually get to change our reality by our own beliefs, and we get to change our perception. One time I was on a run, and I was running literally in the desert in Arizona, and I'm like, this is not pretty. And then I just had this thought. I was like, you know what? I bet if I chose to see and find something beautiful, I could. And almost instantly, everything changed before my eyes. I started seeing the birds in the trees. I started seeing the flowers even on the buildings. And all of a sudden the landscape changed. So we do have the power to change our perception and to change what it is that we'll focus on and put our attention and energy towards, and really find meaning and purpose. But on the same other side of that, I guess you could say, is that sometimes we can end up really denying the reality of what's in front of us because we're so focused on our own desired outcome or our own desired vision. And so it's so important that even here tonight, as we're talking about this concept of what is it that we're asking for, what is it that we're pursuing, what is it that we're striving for, that we are able to hold in duality this real responsibility of paying attention to what the data shows us and what's true, what's right in front of us, but then also recognizing we can change that. The greatest example that I always go back to in regards to this conversation around kind of we get the power to choose our perspective is Viktor Frankl. He authored the book Man's Search for Meaning in a German concentration camp. And he talks about how everything can be stripped away from us physically. And that's true. And it's also true that internally, no one can ever choose or strip away the power to choose. No one can strip that away. That's always going to forever be his greatest of all human freedoms, is his power to choose. And so it's the balancing of these two very seemingly opposing aspects of what constitutes maybe even just being an adult and like living life, to choose our perspective and allow for both seemingly opposite realities to coexist. So I want us to kind of bear that in mind as we lean into today's lesson 165. Let not my mind deny the thought of God. And we're going to read this now and then continue to chat about it. What makes this world seem real except your own denial of the truth that lies beyond? What but your thoughts of misery and death obscure the perfect happiness and the eternal life your Father wills for you? And what could hide what cannot be concealed except illusion, and could keep from you what you already have except your choice to see it not, denying it that is there? The thought of God created you. It left you not, nor have you ever been apart from it in an instant. It belongs to you. By it you live. It is your source of life, holding you with it, one with it. And everything is one with you because it left you not. The thought of God protects you, cares for you, makes soft your resting place and smooth your way, lighting your mind with happiness and love. Eternity and everlasting life shine in your mind because the thought of God has left you not and still abides with you. Who would deny his safety and his peace, his joy, his healing, his peace of mind, his quiet rest, his calm awakening, if he but recognized where they abide? Would he not instantly prepare to go where they are found, abandoning all else as worthless in comparison with them? And having found them, would he not make sure they stay with him and he remain with them? Deny not heaven. It is yours today, but for the asking. Nor need you perceive how great the gift, how changed your mind will be before it comes to you. Ask to receive, and it is given you. Conviction lies within it. Till you welcome it as yours, uncertainty remains. Yet God is fair. Sureness is not required to receive what only your acceptance can bestow. Ask with desire. You need not be sure that you request the only thing you want. But when you have received, you will be sure you have the treasure you have always sought. What would you then exchange for it? What would induce you now to let it fade away from your ecstatic vision? For this sight proves that you have exchanged your blindness for the seeing eyes of Christ. Your mind has come to lay aside denial and accept the thought of God as your inheritance. Now is all doubting past, the journey's end made certain, and salvation given you. Now is Christ's power in your mind to heal as you were healed. For now you are among the saviors of the world. Your destiny lies there and nowhere else. Would God consent to let his son remain forever starved by his denial of the nourishment he needs to live? Abundance dwells in him, and deprivation cannot cut him off from God's sustaining love and from his home. Practice today in hope, for hope is indeed justified. Your doubts are meaningless, for God is certain, and the thought of him is never absent. Sureness must abide within you, who are host to him. This course removes all your doubts, which you have interposed between him and your certainty of him. We count on God and not upon ourselves to give us certainty. And in his name, we practice as his word directs us to do. His sureness lies beyond our every doubt. His love remains beyond our every fear. The thought of him is still beyond all dreams and in our minds according to his will. Y'all, this question of what do you ask for? What do you hope for? There's something I hope I can do this well, because I don't know if I've articulated this before. We are subconsciously, really, truly, we're not aware that we're doing this. We are subconsciously looking for the external world to affirm what we believe in internally. So if I hold a narrative about myself or about the world, I am consistently going to look for reinforcement of my own internal narrative, of my own belief system. And y'all, we find this. We see this in religion. We see this in even the way that businesses run. We put ourselves in rooms that believe the exact same thing as us to further verify our belief system. It's very rare that we will believe something or hold tightly to something and then go intentionally put ourselves in conflict where it's being questioned or analyzed or considered, or somebody's coming in and asking deeper of what you believe and why. It's very rare that we find this. And so it stands to reason that for the most part, we are looking for validation of what we believe. But we're also looking for validation of what we believe, not just for the positive things, but for the negative things. If we have a belief that we will be abandoned, we are going to look for experiences and people to prove that that's going to be true in our lives. If we think that we're not wanted, we're going to go and find experiences and people to affirm that and validate it. Just like how when we have a positive belief, such as somebody holds a religious standing, they're going to go put themselves in rooms and put themselves in experiences and encounter people who are going to reinforce that narrative. We do the same thing with our deepest fears. So our greatest hopes and our greatest joys are reaffirmed by our people, experiences, and environments, and so are our greatest fears. This is why it's, when we look back on our history, let's say history of relationships or even work environments, we continuously see these patterns. It's because we are continuously reinforcing our belief systems, whether it's fear or hope, whether it's joy or anxiety. We are continuously surrounding ourselves with these moments that reaffirm. And so it's only when we really stop and start becoming aware of our existing belief systems and patterns that we can start recognizing, oh, wow, I am really trying to reinforce this belief of not belonging, or I'm really trying to reinforce this belief of not being wanted. And y'all, I've done this myself so many times. I realized that kind of like my core fear is not being wanted. And I grew up in a family of, I've got 5 siblings, and so there's plenty of us. But I was so awkwardly in the middle that I didn't really have like a person. And so my eldest sister was kind of supposed to be that. And she was for like a couple years, but then she went and got spooked off her feet when she was a senior in high school. And we were 5 years apart. We are 5 years apart. So there was just enough of a gap where we didn't get along when we were little. And so I started having this narrative ever since I was probably 5 or 6 years old that I'm alone and that I'm not wanted, and that I don't belong in different rooms or with different groups. And I had a narrative, even at 9 years old, develop where it's me and God against the world. And I continuously see that narrative proving out and showing up in my relationships, in the way that I do business, in the way I literally make financial decisions. It's me and God against the world. That belief system shows up in a myriad of ways. That is an emotional belief, but it shows up intellectually, it shows up physically, it shows up in relationships. And so these emotional beliefs that are established by real experiences as children show up in the way that we look for validation in the world around us. It's literally almost like fabricating environments and even opportunities to test this narrative. Are you going to leave me? I'm actually going to do something that will threaten our relationship to such a great degree that will you stay? And if you leave, I told you so. And if you don't leave, it's just a matter of time. So the question is, when we say, what are you asking for? What are we asking for by our own belief system? Because what we believe, what we think inside of us will surely be that which we seek. You'll find what you're looking for. So if we're looking for proof and validation of our beliefs, then we're actually going to create these experiences and environments where we're going to be proven correctly because we want to be right. And it's very, kind of lizard brain, our body and our nervous system, when it's activated, you get fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, any one of those 4 Fs, they get triggered. And so our kind of reptilian body is looking for proof to continue to keep us safe, because it happened one time back in the past where we were abandoned or we were left or emotionally rejected. Y'all, did you know that the brain and like the emotional nervous system stores emotional rejection, the same way that it stores a traumatic injury, like a physical injury? The brain doesn't tell a difference. Emotional rejection is stored the exact same way as a physical injury or trauma. So once we start recognizing that, it's like, oh my gosh, okay, well, let me go back and consider what are all of those moments of emotional rejection, emotional abandonment, emotional abuse that happened in my past. And now that I know that those hold real power over my body, my physical body, and our brain starts shutting down when we're under threat. And it's like we can't function as a real adult and human being because our body is it's conditioned for survival, which thank God for that. But now that we're no longer in that environment of the past, it's our job and our responsibility to be able to calm our body down first and remind ourselves that's no longer true. It was true. Whether it was emotional rejection or abandonment, maybe your dad left when you were a kid, or maybe you were terribly rejected by a family member or a parent or a sibling. But that environment where you were so rejected or so abandoned emotionally is no longer the case today, unless we are intentionally creating environments to further solidify that narrative is true, that the narrative of everyone's going to leave me, the narrative of I don't belong, the narrative for me that was I'm not wanted. We're going to look for those environments to prove that that's still true in our lives. So y'all, the question is, what are you asking for? What belief do you hold that you're subconsciously looking validation for to prove that you're right, no matter how much it hurts you? And so it's like this bringing awareness to this belief system that we hold based on the past pain that we've had of being abandoned or rejected or hurt and neglected. Once we start being aware that, man, that holds so much power in my physical body and my brain cannot tell a difference between emotional rejection and physical harm or pain, now I actually need to start honoring the past experiences I've had, because for every past experience I had, a narrative and a belief system formed around that. I like to think of each past experience like a brick, and inscribed on the brick is a belief system about the world. It's a narrative around yourself or about other people or even about God. And so the question of, well, what are we asking for, all comes back to what happened when we were kids? What was the experience that formed an inscribed belief that we're continuously looking to reaffirm? There's this biblical concept where it says, build your house on a firm foundation versus building your house on the sand. But another way of kind of looking at this is your house built on bricks that were formed by pain, or bricks that were formed by a voice greater than your own past experience? And if we're only paying attention to our own past experience and letting that be the voice of truth in our mind, it's going to yield so much harm, because we're not allowing for our nervous system to update with new data, new experiences. I had something happen in my family a couple years ago where I was really hurt by something someone did. And I had to remind myself in that moment, it was, okay, I've had this past pain before where I've been and experienced emotional rejection, and that's real. Remember, our bodies can't tell the difference between emotional pain versus physical pain. So that's real, what happened to me in the past. Yet I've got 25 years of data proving that person loves me. And yes, they did something here that hurt me, and it actually ties to a wound from when I was maybe 7 or 8. But I've got 20 years worth of data. So what is going to be more true in my mind? All of the good moments or the couple of bad moments along the way? And so the question is, are we actually in control of our mind? Or is the past in the driver's seat? What are we asking for? Are we looking for the good? Are we looking for something that is beautiful and meaningful and more true based on our identity? Do we know who we are? Do we know whose we are and why we're here? Or are we outsourcing that, so that in outsourcing our identity and outsourcing our worth, it gives other people, much less so the past, an opportunity at the mic to say, oh, no, you're really not wanted. No, you really don't belong. And remember that thing that happened to you 25 years ago? That's still true. Well, it's still true, but there's new data. So when we're kind of considering these narratives and beliefs that really hold power over us, we need to recognize it's that two sides of the coin. That did happen, but on the other side of the coin is decades worth of new data that proves that you are loved and you do belong and that person is safe. Maybe they have changed. Maybe your parent abused you or neglected you as a child, and they've since returned and asked forgiveness and really sought reconciliation. Maybe there's boundaries now, but you're seeking to have a relationship with them. The only way reconciliation can even happen is if we ourselves also do the work to heal from the pain someone else has caused us. Whether it was that person here in this moment or somebody else from years past, but our body doesn't know the difference of who caused me pain. The fact is that there's pain. And so somebody today can trigger something inside of us that never was healed, and it has nothing to do with that person. But our body associates that 20 years buried deep wound with Joe over there who said something, did something that I didn't like that really caused that wound to come back up and manifest and rear its ugly head. So y'all, this question of what are we asking for? Are we asking for narratives of the past that were so painful to be reinforced and validated? Or are we asking for and hoping for and looking for something that is more true than that? And so I want to jump back into today's lesson. It's talking about the lesson today says, let not my mind deny the thought of God. Who would deny his safety and his peace, his joy, his healing, and his own peace of mind, his quiet rest, his calm awakening, if he but recognized where they abide? Would he not instantly prepare to go where they are found, abandoning all else as worthless in comparison to them? Deny not heaven, it is yours today, but for the asking. Nor need you perceive how great the gift, how changed your mind will be before it comes. God is fair. Sureness is not required to receive only what your acceptance can bestow. Ask with desire. You need not be sure that you request the only thing you want, but when you have received, you will be sure that you have the treasure you have always sought. What would you then exchange for it? What would induce you now to let it fade away from your ecstatic vision? For this sight proves that you have exchanged your blindness for the seeing eyes of Christ. Your mind has come to lay aside denial and accept the thought of God as your inheritance. Y'all, literally, how God views you is what is more true than whatever the past narratives are inscribed on the wounds that we hold in our body. And the only way we can really heal from those past wounds is to dismantle that brick and replace it with the truth. It's pulling out the weeds and pulling out the lies that are no longer true and recognizing what is more true. Well, it's what God says about me. It's who I am, whose I am, and why I am. But at the end of the day, we are looking for validation for our beliefs. And so in order for us to actually know our beliefs, sometimes we have to just simply be aware of what triggers us, what makes us angry, what are the things that guide our actions and decisions. And when we start doing that, we really become aware of what's going on in this internal intelligence. I just want to jump here in the chat. Good to see you guys, 18 Mawborn. Good to see you, Goose Hunter. I'm so glad you're here. Christine, what is the best method to overcome the system of paradigms imposed on us in the past that hinder us from achieving our goals in the future? What a beautiful question. I love this. Cat's tongue says, love oneself. It is honestly, I found that to be so true. So I think we have to know what the operating system is. So like, what's our existing system? What's our kind of baseline of the way that we operate? What are the current beliefs? Because until we become aware of the current beliefs that are guiding our lives, we're not going to be able to, you said, overcome the system of paradigms imposed on us from the past. So we can't overcome something we don't know. So we actually need to sit with, what are the systems in place? And I've done this in each category. So on the Knowing Show, we talk about 4 intelligences: intellectual, emotional, spiritual, and physical. And we have paradigms, to your point, that conjure up this system and amalgamate into this operating system for each one of us. But it's beliefs about even our mind. What are those core beliefs, core narratives that I have around the intellect? What are the core? And it could be, y'all, as something as simple as you need to go to college to be successful. That's a paradigm. Another one could be that, with spiritually, it's you have to go to church to experience God or some kind of religious environment. That's a paradigm. And so to be able to even start overcoming, much less so putting something new in its place, we have to know what's there to begin with. And so what I started to do, and this was so helpful for me when I first started kind of doing this work of investigating what was inside of me to begin with, I started doing this kind of 3-step process. Anytime I felt an emotion, or anytime I started just feeling off, or anytime I had a reaction, I would slow down. Literally, I would stop what I was doing. I would sometimes even excuse myself and go to the restroom, and I would just go away and slow down. I would lean into the emotion. So the other day I was actually out in public. I was at a lunch, and then I went to the mall. I never go to the mall, but I was at the mall, and I was actually with a great group of people. But man, I just felt so off. And I was like, what is going on? And like, what is my body trying to tell me? And so there was this weird physical sensation in my stomach where I felt so much discomfort. But I couldn't have identified that years and years and years ago. It's only been in kind of the slowing down that allows for us to even be like, oh, I feel something different. It's interesting, you know. I think a lot of us operate disassociated from our emotions and disassociated even from our body. You know, I was raised to think that my body was something to be embarrassed of, something to hide, something to be ashamed of. Now, that doesn't mean you go and flaunt everything and walk around naked. The goal here is that we have a healthy relationship with emotions. I believed emotions were a sign of weakness. So that was a paradigm. So the question is, Goose Hunter said, what is the best method to overcome the system of paradigms imposed on us in the past that hinder us from achieving our goals in the future? So until we recognize from where we're starting, there is no way we can try to end up somewhere else and even do a lateral 180 change. We'll probably inevitably, unless we're aware, do a 360 and just repeat and repeat and repeat until we, one, become aware of what's going on inside of us, and then two, set a new destination. What's the alternative? Where am I here? Here's point A. Here's where I am today. Well, what's point B? Or even Z, like where am I trying to get to? So a lot of times we're not clear on where we're starting and we're not clear on where we're going. And so being aware of that in each one of these categories, intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, physically, it's bringing awareness to every single one of those. What are the existing paradigms? And then what's the new target? And then we can do a 180 rather than a 360 and never actually change anything. I'm just going to jump back in here. Gaurav, I'm so glad to see you. You should stream a little longer than 30 minutes. Oh my gosh. Well, you're catching me right on the time. It is right at the 30-minute mark. So I need to hop off soon. I would love to. I actually would really, really love to go longer than 30 minutes. I think I'll try to set aside time where I can go longer because I do enjoy being on with y'all longer. Egg, thank you for joining. Carlos, good to see you. Just scrolling up. Kashi, hello. I love this. Kat says, I definitely need a software update. I feel like y'all, if that's such an interest, I love this concept of like an operating system because it really is true. We update the operating systems in our business. We update our software every couple of years. Why would we not be doing that with our internal intelligence? Why would we not take stock of our own subscriptions? Our narratives that were formed in childhood is like an old, outdated software subscription that is running in the background, running as a program, guiding our decisions, guiding our life, and informing the way that we show up as adults when that happened when we were children. So really, there's like little kids at the helm of the ship, which is so scary when we really realize it, but we don't have to stay there. We don't have to stay there. We're not stuck. We're actually very, very free. It's just a matter of, Goose Hunter, of what you were saying, how do we overcome these systems? It's a matter of really, truly taking the time to listen, to slow down, lean in, and then the third step, those are the first two: slow down, lean in, and then ask why. Why is that there? And the goal is to actually get to the very genesis moment of when did this narrative start? What was the experience that shaped that? And then y'all, it's going in and being really tender to that little kid that had that experience of abandonment or betrayal. Again, emotional pain, our body knows no difference between emotional pain and physical pain. It stores that data the same. And we just fundamentally have not held regard for emotional pain our entire lives. And then we wonder why we're terrible at relationships. We wonder why communication is so hard. We just were never taught how to do them. So Gaurav, I'm hopeful to your point about staying on longer. I'm hoping to be able to do that again tomorrow. I'll be live. Let me actually pull up my calendar. I will be on tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific tomorrow morning. And then I've been having fewer shows in the afternoon. So I don't think I have a show tomorrow afternoon, but I'll see what I can do about staying on a little bit longer with y'all tomorrow morning. I think it would be special to spend more time together. So I actually think I can do a full hour. So come in with questions and let's hang out tomorrow. Y'all, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for joining the Knowing Show. I'm so grateful. We're I feel like I'm just getting started. It's funny, I'm coming up on a year of going live every single day. And so while it's been a year, I feel like I'm just getting started with this whole movement, so to say. I have my book coming out in a couple months, and there's a lot of work that I need to do, but I'm grateful for each one of you all. Alex, all good. I'm so sad. We're jumping off. I'm so sad to miss you. But I will be back on tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern. We'll be on for longer, so come hang out with us, and I will see you